Well, welcome to Only Visiting. Oh, no. Is that the wrong show? Well, it is, because this is Let Us Reason Together. But my co-host and I normally do a whole different show together, and it's not by this name. It's Only Visiting This Planet. Do you remember that? I know somebody who's been listening to the archives of that wonderful show, and all Mark had to say to her was just, "You're brave." Here we are together again. We should have had a song, Together Again, just something to go on since we're here together again, Mark.
I did that after you went to Israel during Only Visiting This Planet. You went to Israel, came back, and then I played some Together Again or something like that.
Well, why don't you just sing something?
Is me sing something?
Sure.
Together Again. How's that?
Perfect.
Oh, I have something even better, Sandy. Let's do this.
Okay.
We've got enough people watching. Let's try this. This is even better than that. Here we go. Shalom and a merry, marvelous traveling salutation to you all. I'm Captain Handy Markey, and this is Captain at Dandy Sandy.
And a merry, marvelous good morning to you all.
All right, Dandy Sandy and I travel all over the universe in our spaceship called, wait for it, that's right, you guessed it, the Handy Dandy Spaceship. We're so glad you've decided to join us on our journey vlog.
Nice video you made of our spaceship. Not real sure where you were when you took this so-called video, but anyway, I'm reading that it says the Dandy Handy, not the Handy Dandy.
Now I know why your husband wanted to paint the sign on the side of the ship. Anyway, won't you all take a look with us out our spaceship window and see where we're heading today? What is that I hear? Is that someone throwing bombs at us? Oh my, that's not nice at all. Wait, okay, it's only fireworks. I like fireworks, don't you, Dandy Sandy?
Yes, fireworks in space. Look, there's the planet we're going to visit today. Can you say planet Earth?
Wait, what's wrong with planet Earth? It looks as though it's spinning out of control. Maybe those really are bombs. Captain Dandy Sandy, put the Handy Dandy spaceship in orbit around planet Earth. And our viewers going to black out for a quick second while we pass into the Earth's atmosphere. There we are. Good job, Dandy Sandy. Good job. Steady. Great
Vertigo
job.
supreme here.
All right. Get us on in there. Okay, I'll take the controls and I'll bring us on in. Okay, there we are. Hold on, a little rough, but we made it. Okay. Hold on. Let us bring it to a stop. Okay, good job. Okay, our viewers are waiting for us and our guests are already here. Sandy, welcome everybody to the show.
I think she already did. I miss those days.
I do. And if you didn't get the welcome everybody. This is Let Us Reason Together, but we are having memories of the past of only visiting this planet, which you can always go back and watch those on the archives.
Yeah, who was it the other day that on, I think it was next chapter, that Terry said she was going back watching all of the old ones, and that would be fun. I should resurrect some of the old ones, and
I wish that I wish there was a way when we did this that we could still play games, because those were so fun.
They were. You have to have somebody else besides you and me.
I know. You can't play games with yourself unless you're, well,
Yeah, it's the same thing as Compass of Cram. I put together a couple of games that I wanted to play on that, but I knew it still was just going to be probably at the first, because it's hard to get people to come in and play it. And I think a lot of it is our early morning shows. And I've even considered taking Compass of Cram to the evening, where a lot of people can make it to the show and better than they can in the morning, and come on and play games and talk about stuff. And so I'm trying to correct my T-shirt here. It's not working the way I thought it. Have you seen? I think it's a fabric softener commercial where this young girl and young guy are going out to eat for the first time.
Oh, yes, and that collar is all torn.
He said, they sit down. He says, "You look amazing," and she looks.
You look comfortable.
Amazingly comfortable.
Amazingly comfortable.
So it's kind of like, if I just pull my shirt down like this, I can be that guy. But I thought the shirt looked better than it did. Sorry. Let's see.
It looks fine to me, Mark.
I'll see if I can change it into anything.
Nah, it looks fine.
I'm good. All right. Well, good. Sandy, it's all yours. You're Sandy, not John, today.
I am Sandy, not John, today. You play around with your name. I thought I would do the same, although it's not like, wow. Oh, anyway. So I'm just I used to give facts. If you want to know about what fact of what today is, of course, it's Monday, April 6, 2020. The 12th day of the first month of Nisan. And guess what? This is some remembrance. It's caramel popcorn day. Now, when was the last time you had caramel popcorn?
Christmas. Christmas always, Christmas is when you eat caramel. You get that great big tin, that grandma gives you, and it's divided up into 3, and regular popcorn, cheese popcorn, and caramel popcorn.
I used to give that to my dad. And that's, now that I think about it, Dad would always put every gift that I gave him in a drawer. And when I was an adult, I found all the gifts that I used to give him in this drawer. He never, ever, not the popcorn though. He would eat that, but I used to give him that tin when I was young of popcorn. I don't know how long it's been since I've had any, but maybe you eat popcorn in your tartan. Do you have a tartan? Because this is National Tartan Day. Do you wear your skirt?
Well, I do.
The tartan, of course, is your colors, but you might as well you got to have the full outfit on. So
I do, but not that I want to say in public.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I know John has a tie or something with his tartan on it from his family, and it's not very pretty. I will say that. The colors are ugly. Sorry, John Craig family, but it is what it is. But I think you should have a kilt on National Tartan Day. I do. So if you have that background, men wear skirts. And I was always told that under those skirts, well, yeah.
Yeah. And white men can dance too. So
no, well, I don't know that you'd want to dance when you're wearing a kilt in the traditional way, because there might be a little bit of flashing going on. I don't know.
Not going there.
Oh, well, yeah. Anyway, also on this day in history, well, this is like Mormon Day. And I was like, why is this Mormon Day? And because this day in 1830, Joseph and 5 others organized the Mormon Church in Western New York. And then in 1970, the U.S. Congress approved a declaration of war on Germany on this day for World War I. And then this one might interest you. In 1983, the U.S. Interior Secretary James Watt banned the Beach Boys from the 4th of July celebration on the Washington Mall. He said that rock and roll bands attract the wrong element. The Beach Boys attract the wrong element. Really?
I believe it. If you lived those days, you saw, you didn't know much difference. Today, when you look back at history of music and you see the different kinds of music that were played during specific times, you kind of get it a little bit better because living during it, the Beach Boys music was all a part of rock and roll, even though today you can distinguish the definite difference between rock and roll and the Beach Boys, but in the day you couldn't. So interesting.
Wow.
Isn't it?
Well, you listen to Beach Boys today and it's like, oh, that's great music and it's easy. And there's music that I would classify as not easy listening. In fact, I would consider it sorcery, but that's a whole nother show. We've already done that, in fact.
Well, they play old Eagles songs on country and western now, and on country and western radio stations. And it's like during the day, you wouldn't that it was popular or the new song came out. You really didn't. You just thought it was like an easygoing rock and roll song. But now it's even considered. You think of what you hear. And country and western has a rock sound, and there's even some hip hop country and stuff nowadays, where back in the day, so it's all a mesh. They waffle. They're all waffling.
Oh.
We
might have a word of the day. Maybe you guys figure it out. Let's see by the end of the day if you can hear. This is non-scripted. If you hear an idea repeated over and over, see if you can point it out and let us know in the chat. We'll let you know if you're right or wrong. And we'll have to discuss it with each other too. We might have to figure that out. But you know what? Let's just search it out and see what we can find. Well, I have one more thing about today. And before I say what this day commemorates, do we know what the Dow Jones is right now? I don't personally. I don't know what the actual number is. Sorry, I have a cat trying to get the couch. Sorry. Or raccoon. I'm sorry, raccoon.
So is that where the raccoon lives? Is back behind the couch, and you were like knocking on its door or something? Or?
Well, no, but the raccoon thinks he has claws, and so he was. I was thinking it was the black raccoon. The black raccoon does have claws, and when she does that, she rips it up. But I didn't realize it was the yellow raccoon. But he doesn't live there. Actually, like last night, I felt two raccoons on either side, one raccoon on either side of me. So it's like, I can't move. Anyway. Well, back to the Dow Jones. I don't know exactly what it is. If somebody does know, let me know in the chat. But in 1998, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed above 9,000 points for the very first time. Now I'm thinking of the numbers that it was. And, back then it was like, wow, 9,000. It's so great. And now if it's that low, if it's there, it would be considered low, but it's just a thought, Now here's something I was going to actually bring out on the next chapter, but we haven't been using this. I got to get back to it. So let me get to the right thing. So
the reason you haven't been doing your first 15 minutes of crazy stuff on the next chapter is because once you introduce me, I always just take up the time with whatever I want to talk about. Look at that smile. You see that smile? You see, she knows that's exactly what happens. And I don't do it on purpose. It just happens that way because I've always got this little agenda that I want to talk about. And when you introduce me, I can't help but
I did not give you an official introduction. Everybody, this is Mark David Smith, the owner, the visionary, the workhorse of Messianic Lamb Network. As you see behind him, I still have to get a green screen so I can do that. And he is here. And you know what? The buck stops with him. That's all I can say.
I thought that was a green screen of somebody else's living room or something, but it's
it is not. But when I get a green screen, I'm gonna have to stick it like behind the couch area so that
I see.
Yeah. And it has to be here because I only have one. When they built this house, we bought this house in 2004 and it was new, but they only have one phone outlet thing.
That's right.
That's ridiculous. So anyway, so this is as far as I can go because this is as long as my cord is, and because it's in another room. It's not even in this room. It's in another room. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but the green screen I have to go behind because I can't go anywhere else. But here is a piece of news, wacky news that I had for the next chapter, and I've never said it. So I'm going to say it now. 2/3 of Americans would prefer a 4-day work week. Everybody's working for the weekend. Everybody is working. All right. But they want a longer weekend. Now, a new survey, now this is before, says that most Americans would prefer a 4-day work week with longer hours rather than the traditional 5-day work week. Well, now we have people that have an all week, a 0-day work week because of the C thing.
Oh yeah, the C thing. I get you. Yeah, right. I see. I have an 8-day work week, so you know.
Oh, 8-day. Well, yeah, I have 7.5.
Oh, really? You do get a half day?
Yeah. It's weird like that. It is weird like that. Well, and I'll have anyway.
Well, Joe gave us the Dow Jones here.
So it's 22. See, now imagine in 1998 it hit 9,000. Everybody's like, "Woohoo! This is great!" And right now Dow is at 22,074.29. And so they say, "Oh, this is terrible! Wow, what a change! What a change! A few years passed. What a change!" But back to the work day. Here's one of the problems too. I was listening to Alex Jones, and he was talking about so many Americans now are like, "Ooh, I love this vacation." What they don't understand, I think that the Americans, those are probably millennials. Oh, I know I'm bashing millennials, but they're going to be the generation that still wants something for nothing. Let's be real. Let's be real. And guess what, guys? That's what you're taught in the school and in colleges now is that you deserve everything. And why should you have to do anything? Because everybody should just give it to you. And so we have people out there that are loving this, and they don't realize that mom and pop businesses are being destroyed, and we need the time when we go back. It is time. I sort of agree with Alex Jones. It's time that we rise up and not just give our rights away, and we stand up for what we should be doing. So this idea that everybody wants a 4-day work weekend or a 4-day work week, I understand that. I would love, there have been moments during this that I'd said, I would just love a few days off so I could work on other stuff, or even sit and chill. I can't imagine that. I would love to sit and chill for a moment, but then I would work because I would feel like, why I'm wasting time. Because that's just the way I am. But my job, by the way, I haven't, like I said at the beginning, my work week hasn't changed. I'm still working the same as I was before, not more. So anyway.
Have you got a raise lately?
I got a raise to 0.00.
That's just not true, Sandy. You know better than that. I'm not getting it because, first of all, sounds to me like you're talking about socialism. You know, I mean, are they? Because the millennials like socialism.
They do,
and that's and so now Trump giving the so much dollars per person and kids and all this kind of stuff. And my millennial daughter called the other day with the amount of money they figured up that Trump is going to, send them, their family and everything. And she was real happy about that. And I'm real happy for her. But, it's kind of like they think that should, and that's really what you're talking about. They think that should all just be taken care of. But when you're talking about a work week anyway, doesn't it really, it doesn't so much anymore like it did 50 years ago. There was standards that the different companies and businesses and, everybody kind of worked by, because those were how the country was run. These days, it is only open to whatever the business needs to do. Look at your retail stores that are open 7 days a week now. 50 years ago, they were not open 7 days a week. And so people, work hours based on when the retail was open. Your manufacturing companies were only open 5 days a week, basically. And so they worked based on that. And machinery and the way just so many different jobs that there are, so many different companies and businesses that employ people. It's all over the map on how people are open or working or whatever. So there's really no standard whenever they say, oh, I'd really rather have a 4-day work week rather than a 5-day work week. That's not even a public issue as far as I'm concerned. It's more each individual business that employs somebody's issue. Can they work the people only 4 days a week and 10 hours a day, and give them the weekend off? It really boils down to more of that than just to socially say, hey, we'd like to have a 4-day work week rather than a 5 now. See, that's the way I see it.
But my question is, will we ever return to something like that? Because you hear now, if you hear the powers that are trying to control this, their goal is to leave you like this for 18 months. What's going to be left of an economy and businesses in 18 months? How are people going to pay their mortgages, their rent? How are they going to pay their bills? And then they're doing things like banning seeds. Well, I agree with my husband who says every business is essential and every business should be operating. If you got, what's going to happen is mom and pop stores are going to go by the wayside, and what you have are the big government controlled businesses, those that are allowed right now to stay open. And so everything is funneled there. So they have complete control of society. So you get to the point where, okay, and it's pure socialism, communism. Socialism is the economic way communism works. But everybody has to receive a check, or all money's funneled into the government, and then they give you back whatever so you can live and eat. John, when we went to Walmart yesterday, it was funny because John has grown up he has spent a large amount of time when he was younger and even when he as an adult in other countries. And he said, when we went to the store at Walmart, it reminded him of when he was in Norway. He had this culture shock when they first arrived and started living there, because there's not selections in the stores. There's a few things there, and it reminded him of that. And so, this celebrated vacation, forced vacation that some desire is actually, they're lulling you into your sleep, folks, you kids, the people who think that's the way it should be. And man, I want some more time off, because society probably will never be the same. I wish it would be. I mean, not the same, but anyway, so it's a paradox, I guess.
Oh, it's interesting what Clint said, which is, it's real true. Yah commands 6 work days and Shabbat. It's called a week and it's unique. Yah trained Israel in this rhythm for 7 weeks after Passover, and then he gave them the law. Well,
I love that. What he said, trained Israel in this rhythm for 7 weeks.
I like it. That's very good.
I need to copy that and use that in a message one of these days. Thank you, Clint. That's great. Well, we have already chatted up way past the time that we're allotted.
No, there are only 2 of us, so it doesn't.
But there's only 2 of us to comment, so we'll be okay. Anyway, so now, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I don't know what we're doing, so
we're going to do the Brit or the Torah.
Oh, no, all I'm going to do is you go ahead with the Torah and I'll get mine ready.
You get yours ready. Okay, now we know, folks. We know what's actually going on.
We only talked about this at the at the first of what we were going to do here, and so you go ahead and I'll.
Okay, I will go. Mine is actually going to be.
Oh.
That's okay. I'd rather them see your face. Okay, well, you get to see mine. Okay, what I'm about to say, you're going to have to put it on a shelf, and you're going to have to go study some things out. But I always had the question, why did Yeshua say, my God, why have you forsaken me? And I preached a message, I guess it's been a couple months now. It's called Why Medua in Lama. And I actually put the link in the chat room at the top, so you can go back and watch that message for a little bit more detail on what I said, because we always ask the question, why? And that's a big why. You know, my God, my Eli Eli Lama Sabachthani is a big why, sort of. But I always thought about this. I was like, wow, in Matthew 27:46, where it says that, what did that mean? What was he actually saying? And when you study the word Lama, there are two Y's, actually, Medua and Lama. Medua is, what are the mechanics that brought me here? Lama is, for what purpose did this occur? And we see that very word Lama in that statement, Eli Eli Lama Sabachthani. And so we understand that that word, when you study it out, does mean, for what purpose did this happen? Now, I want to take us back to the Torah. When we look at the lamb being slaughtered that was brought into the house on the 10th day and then slaughtered, it said that when a lamb is slaughtered, that it willingly goes, and that it even lifts its head as you slaughter the lamb. And there's no complaining, there's no fighting. It just willingly lays down its life. And so and then the blood, of course, is put on the doorpost for the first Passover. And I want to take that concept, because we know Yeshua is Yah, Yeshua is God, and he laid down his life just as the lamb, because he was the lamb. Everything pointed from there, from the Akedah, from Isaac, all the way throughout history. We just see pictures and shadow pictures of what's about to happen. And of course, echoing even what would happen during the Exodus time in the Torah. But I want us to take that. I want to take that statement, and I want us to tear it apart a little bit, because when I was studying and I found out some information, to me, it cleared up the picture completely. When you understand that Lama means, for what purpose is this happening? I mean, to what end did this occur? Why, God? Because we always should be asking, not this and this and this happened, so this happened. It should be, what are you using this for, Father? How are you going to take this and turn it around for your glory? For what purpose is this? So know that word is in the midst of this statement, and it's Aramaic, of course. And also, I want us to, Eli, some say that is El, or you see in Mark that it's translated Eloi, Eloi. Okay. So, my God, that's tradition. But I want us to break down this word, sabachthani, or tani, as some would say. It is said, well, if you break it apart, you look at the Aramaic word sakhu, or SBQ, which means to forsake or abandon for a purpose. And I want you to focus in, for a purpose, because that's almost reminiscent of why. Why? To what end? To what purpose is this occurring? Now, it can be argued that the word shwach in Aramaic, it means to be kept or spared or allowed to fulfill to an end. Now, that's very important, because we have Aramaic. Now, what's really unique here is that Yeshua spoke a Northern Galilean Aramaic. So I want you to think about also how languages vary. Can you understand? If I'm sitting here talking like a lot of people do here in Texas, you might have a little bit of a hard time understanding me. I know of one gentleman here, when he talks, when I was growing up, he talked like this, and it was about that, at that pace. And I would be like, oh my goodness, hurry up. But I hear, or we take Abigail, who's the boss, that language, that Bostonian accent. Accents sometimes can cause you not quite to understand what people are saying, even if it's around your own country, right? Because dialects are different. I don't want you to put that on a shelf. Take that for what I'm about to say. So if Yeshua really meant that God had abandoned him or forgotten him, or why have you forsaken him? he would have actually, if you go back to the word, the Hebrew word for that, it would have been ta'atani, which means forsake, or nashatani, which means to forget. Those two words. The Hebrew it means what it says, and it says what it means. But that's not what he said. In fact, in Psalm 22:1, where it says that this is taken, he says, Eli, Eli, lama azabthani. Now, that is not sabachthani. There's a difference in the words. When Yah says what he means, and means what he says in scripture. If he meant one, then he would say one, but he did not say that. So I want you to remember that. I'm putting your puzzle pieces together here. So I want you to take this, that is it possible? Is it possible when you think of to what purpose, to what end, this has happened for such a time? These are sort of the words that we're already looking at what their meaning is. We traditionally say, my God, why have you forsaken me? But when we break it down, maybe he wasn't quoted correctly. Maybe not, because there were witnesses to the crucifixion from Judea, and they spoke the southern dialect of Aramaic because they're from Judea. And they would have written down and assumed something, especially something they've heard. But some thought he was calling for Elijah. Was he? Because this is all about the Passover lamb, the Yeshua, the Lamb of God. What's he doing? Is he crying out saying, God, I don't know what's happening to me. Why is this happening to me? Why have you left me? Because he is God. Why would he say that? It's always bothered me. Well, when you study the old Galilean, and you say, where's their old Galilean? Well, it's relatively a new discovery. They've actually found that northern dialect of Aramaic of the old Galilean, which was thought to be a dead language. They found a tribe in northern Iraq that still speaks it. They still speak this language, and it's sort of opening up this possibility of what it actually was said. What was actually said. So if you look at the word El, in the southern dialect, it means my God. However, in the northern dialect, it's more colloquial, and it is sometimes descriptive, like a God is someone or something that controls you, people, for instance. But Yeshua, it's more descriptive of heart, my heart, in the northern dialect, in the Semitic languages. So my heart. Now I want you to think about that. So Eli, Eli could have been saying, listen to my heart. Listen to my heart. Now, the word from Lama, I've already told you, means for what purpose, why. I mean, for what purpose is this happening? For what purpose, Lama? Not why have I forsaken you, because Yeshua knows what's happening, right? He knows what's happening. And in the old Galilean, the Lama Sakfani means this is why I have been kept, or this is my destiny. In fact, if you go say that word, that phrase right now into that tribe, they actually say this is my destiny. That's how they say those words, is Lama Sakfani. So that's very interesting. They still use that very phrase. And it doesn't mean, why have you forsaken me? It means this is my destiny. So this is why I've been kept. This is my destiny. So is it possible, when you break it down, that when Yeshua was on the cross, the tradition of my God, why have you forsaken me? When you truly understand the meaning of why, Lama or Medua, the difference between the two, could it be that he said, listen, this is my heart. This is my destiny. Think about who was around him. It was his people. They're crying. They're pouring out their heart. Yeshua's first concern was always the people. He was like, he's the lamb. He was like, I care for you. He wanted to heal, deliver, set them free. And so his thought, I can't believe Yeshua would be like, on me, me, me. It would have been, hey guys, I want to comfort you. This is my heart. This is supposed to happen. So maybe instead of my God, why have you forsaken me? When you break this all down, I'm going to make it a little bigger. He's like saying, listen to my heart, guys. You're there crying. You're pouring your heart. You see what's happened to me. So listen to my heart. This is why I came to the earth in the first place. This is my purpose, to die for you. This is my destiny. So having that picture, to me, when I was studying this out, it was like, Now that's my Yah. Looking out to the people who are there before him, his mother, John, they're there crying and their hearts are being broken because the Yeshua's dying, and he comforts them. This is why I'm here. This is my destiny, because he laid down his life willingly, just like we see the lamb, the very first Passover in Exodus, that willingly laid down his life without complaint or question. That's our Yeshua. And so there's a lot more I have on this. My whole message, like I said, is on the link at the top of the chat, and you can go there and look at it. But I want you to put that on a shelf and think about it. It completely changes everything, but to me, it makes a lot of sense. Break it down. Could there have been a mistranslation, misunderstanding with the people that were there at the very moment? Yeah. Does God mean what he says when he says a different word than what we traditionally think it should say, that it says in the Tanakh? So if it's different, it's different. And there's a reason for that. So nonetheless, put it on a shelf, go study it out, and maybe think about it this Pesach when you are considering what Yeshua has done. This is my purpose. This is my destiny. This is why. There's an end there, because I've come to lay down my life for you. So that is what I'm bringing for you today. And like I said, it could be completely offensive to some, and that's okay. It doesn't hurt to have a differing opinion. Just put it on a shelf or run with it, or don't ever run with something. Always study something out. Don't ever run with what anybody says. Study it out. Look it up. Study out the Hebrew, study out the Aramaic, study out the other dialects as well, because that's what we're looking at here. So, Mark, I know I told you I was going to freak everybody out today by what I said. So are you freaked?
Well, I think if you're freaked out by it, then you must be brand new to the Messianic lifestyle, because
that's true.
What's that?
I said that's true. There's one thing I've learned in this walk. You need to be ready to change your ideas, because as Yah brings revelation, if you're static and you refuse to move, then you get stuck in the old tradition. And that's what we've always said we're getting away from. So if he opens up something new and has new revelation, and it registers with his word and bears witness, then, sometimes we need to put aside our old tradition, our old way of thought, and completely change our paradigm. So
I think we all learn that on a daily basis with the different walks and people that we're with. I mean, I had said last week, in January, if somebody had told us that the entire planet would be quarantined for a month or two, would you have believed them, or
No.
would you have laughed it off? And because there's just so many things that we hear about and they never happen, or we don't hear about and they do happen, and it's like, why didn't somebody figure that out? So the world today is just so much different, and that's exactly what you're talking about there. Is that I think, like with you and I that have been walking this Messianic walk, for so long, we now really don't get surprised by a whole lot of things as much as take things and listen to them, take them and think about them, study them out. If it's something that's interesting, there's a lot of things I hear that, it's not making a difference in my walk. It's not making a difference in my thought pattern. It doesn't make any difference if I go study it out or not. So I have to, there's different things that interest different ones of us. So when something comes across us that's interesting, like this is very interesting to me. I had not heard what you're saying there, but I just don't doubt it. I mean, language, I constantly have to deal with language barriers. And, that's like last or the week before last, I taught on believers. on the next chapter. And the very first thing I said is the first thing I'm going to do all through this, I'm going to give you definitions. Why? Because I can teach you something, but if you have a different definition for each one of these words, or even half of these words, or 2 out of 10 of these words, then I didn't get my communication across to you. And you're talking about people with different dialects. You're talking about people that come from different parts of different countries and things. And you say things, forget the complete different language barriers of translating from one language, to another. Forget dialects. I mean, listening to somebody from different parts of the United States is not as big a deal as somebody that's standing in front of me that has spent 50 years of their life in France and spoke French and just learned English. And I can sit there and talk to them, and especially about religious stuff. I mean, go past that. So, it's all there. And it's, if we don't understand that, or if we don't accept that, then we're the ones with the problem, the ones that don't accept that, the ones that don't acknowledge that that's true. And that's, I've always tried to be very, I'm a realist, but I've always tried to be very open with my words. In other words, I try to make sure you understand by the structure of my sentences and that type of thing, what I'm putting together. And anyway, so I thought it was real good. I learned something, and I'm good with it.
Doesn't it make you think, though, for him to say that? Doesn't that sound so much like Yeshua? Hey.
Yeah, sure.
It does. It just, anyway. So sure. That's what I have for that.
That's always good. Well, you just handled the Brit Hadashah portion of it.
No, I said, you know what? No, we're in the Passover week. We're waffling between the two places, the Passover lamb, Passover lamb, anyway. But guess what time it is? It's time for news. So, would you guys like to hear some news?
Yeah, I'd like to play you an intro. How about that?
That sounds good to me. All right. Well, here's the news of the day. The New York Times openly op-ed blames evangelical Christians for paving the road to coronavirus hell. Yeah, that's what's happening here. It's your fault, people who are believers in Yeshua, who are believers in Jesus. According to some, the tide is rising, and it should not surprise you that you are being blamed, just as President Trump is being blamed for everything. Oh, it's too light, it's too dark, it's too this, it's too that. Well, it's President Trump's fault. Now, you guys, if you're a believer in Yeshua, in Jesus, it's your fault for COVID, according to some. The New York Times blames evangelical Christians for paving the way to this coronavirus hell. The contributor, Catherine Stewart, draws a parallel between 19th century advocates of slavery and religious Christians whose denial of science and critical thinking, she says, now haunts the American response to COVID-19 pandemic. She accuses President Trump of having a tendency to trust his gut over the Council of Scientists. Oh, my goodness. And she says Christians deny science. Well, let me tell you, Catherine, those scientists who've tried to delve into and prove the Bible wrong, most of the time are converted because they find that their so-called religion of science can't stand up to the word of God, the word of Yahweh. So just know that. And you know what? One of these days, everybody's going to find out the truth. Now, I'm not saying that we understand science. We do that too. But we also know that humans always worship something. You're worshiping something. You can be worshiping your own knowledge or whatever, but you're worshiping something. So Catherine Stewart and those just like her, you have it wrong. She also writes, Donald Trump rose to power with the determined assistance of a movement that denies science, bashes government, and prioritizes loyalty over professional expertise. In the current crisis, we are all reaping what this movement, and by the way, this movement is believers, have sown. She says, which science-denying movement she's referring to? Of course, Christian pastors continuing church services during COVID-19. Now, let me ask you, how many pastors have done that? Although I do not think that's wrong. How many pastors have done that? Well, not many. But there's very few, but she says that that's really everybody. Now, people of faith, this is statistically, people of faith are more likely than non-believers to practice their social distancing, their form of martial law, their thing. Okay. So non-believers are least likely to follow the measures. In fact, they've done polling data, and though it is ever so slight, it says that 86% of Christians or believers said they practice the recommendations given, while 78% of agnostics and 80% of atheists say they do. So let's see. Who is the majority that's following their government's rules? Well, it's believers. And she blames libertarians, true, and we can go on with that, but I'm not going to. She is, even stranger, is that Stewart scapegoats the evangelical Christians for subscribing to a philosophy of limited government as a matter of theology. Well, let's go back to the Constitution. Let's go back to the Civil War. It was about states' rights versus the federal rights. Who should control? President Trump's actually been following the Constitution and he makes recommendations, and he's giving it over to the states to decide how to mandate or how to follow those things, where they want to go with it. So, President Trump's following the Constitution. Those on the other side would like the Constitution to be completely destroyed. So, Catherine Stewart and those like her who would blame Christians for everything are following a different God. And it is a God that doesn't make sense when you play it out. But nonetheless, the ridiculous idea that believers are the reason COVID-19 is spreading is such a lie. But guess what? The majority of the people sit down and they eat the lie and they believe it. And we do know that in days to come, that the word says that there will be persecution. Well, that's why, folks, this is an opinion. It's time that we stop just as our rights are being removed. I do believe it's time that we stop sitting back and letting it happen. Instead, we need to stand up. We need to stand up for our rights as people in the United States, or we'll never get them back. You can take that however you want. I'm not saying everybody go get together in a big old group, but I do want you to know that what you are hearing through the media, if you're still listening to the regular media, is such a lie. In fact, on Alex Jones and other sources, I've heard people going into the hospitals, and the hospitals are empty. Taking video, the hospitals are empty. Specifically, Hawaii, there was a reporter who went in there. He was not feeling well. The hospitals were empty. And even though they said there were lines, you go back to the one that's supposed to be the epicenter. You can look at Alex Jones. He has a lot of the video from different people going into the hospital. The hospitals are empty. It's a line that you're being fed. Don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe it. So, because this is the day and the hour, if one side is not going to take a good crisis and use it and not use it for their advantage and twist that information, just remember, don't believe everything you hear, because here is another situation where they're trying to get the ball rolling so that Christians are persecuted and prosecuted. If you are a believer, and if you say, well, I'm a Hebrew roots person, do you believe in Yeshua? You're part of that group then. So do not think that you're excluded from this, because as it happens to the Christian community, so will it happen to you. And it's time, folks, on our knees, fasting, praying, but we also need to open our mouth and speak the truth, because the lie needs to be pushed aside. So that's my news for the day. And I would like to hear what you say. Mark, is it your fault that COVID's spreading?
My fault.
You're a believer. It must be your fault, right?
Mm,
I'm being sarcastic, folks. I'm not blaming Mark. Okay.
No, I'm doing a public broadcast right now. I neither confirm nor deny my involvement in anything anymore. That's becoming my standard statement now. Is I neither confirm nor deny anything anymore. Except Yeshua, I confirm that. I confirm my God. That's all there is to it. But no, that's good. That's interesting. I kind of like your title. You started off with coronavirus hell, because I think, and I've been kind of thinking along the lines of hell lately, and there's the frustration of things, the frustration of stuff. I think the number one thing that I despise anymore is limbo. Adina and I use this word on a regular basis because the last 20 years of our life have been in one limbo or another, or a meshing of, we're going through this limbo, and now while we're going through one limbo, we go through another limbo. And the problem with limbos are you never know where the end of that limbo is going to be. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that is probably the most frustrating thing of life, is to be in limbo, because it's not hard to go through things, and you're going through it, and you're you're going to do, like I'm remodeling the house, and yeah, we're going through some things, but I sure would like to get it done. But in the process of it, I can't finish this because this has now started, and now I have to do this, but I can't do the original thing because this is still in limbo, and I can't do now something. The coronavirus is on there, and now I'm quarantined, so now I'm in 14 other limbos. And it's like, yeah, coronavirus hell. I'm with you 100%. It's just the way things are. And
Yeah.
it's life. It's what we've it's anymore with. It's so funny. What was it? What was it? Something that I can't even remember now, but 20, 50 years ago, things were so much easier, and we didn't have as many things going on, not only around the planet, but in each individual person's life. And you have all of these things that build up and build up and build up, and there's just so many things that build up in people's lives that add up, and overwhelmingness and the whole thing. And people like you and I that are constantly busy with stuff and adding things onto a schedule that is already saturated 183% of our lives, and something else comes along, and it's like, I can do that. I can do that. I think the problem is knowing, we don't know how to say no, and because we have the ability to do it, doesn't mean we should, so yeah, it's it all adds on to that. And then when you take away your freedom, which, by the way, is another word that is rarely used during this quarantine, but we have lost a lot of freedom.
That's why we can't be silent.
Yeah, that's right. It really is, and so it's interesting that all this has happened during the number one Moedim that remembers and acknowledges the freedom that was gained by the Passover that happened, and freedoms that we have today. And a constant. I hate to take it into a different direction, but one of the things that I'll be talking about here for a while is it's going to be interesting to hear the stories after this is over. 3 months and 6 months from now, it is going to be real interesting to hear the stories of devastation, but also the blessings that have happened because of the devastation, because that's always the way it works. And of course, 9 months from right now will be a new baby boom. We all know that. And so it's just so interesting to me. This is every day is a new and different time in our lives. And if you don't know the Lord, I just I really feel sorry for you. I really do. Email me. We'll talk about it. But best I can do on that. So I hate to say it too, because my heart goes out to the world. But I pray on this every single day is that I wonder what the rate of suicide is going to be when this is all over and we look back. I believe this is a statistic that we're not going to want to hear, but I think it will be one of the statistics that will be put together during this. And so anyway, I don't know how to put it together any different than that. I think it's real interesting how fast this happened from the time that we found out this, and it happened. So the other day I was talking about how there's a documentary on Netflix called Pandemic, and I was talking about this on my show last week. It is an amazing documentary. It was finished. This is the crazy thing. This 6-hour documentary was finished in December of 2019. And as Adina and I are finishing this documentary, the only thing I could think of was they of course they say it's not if another pandemic happens, but when it happens. And right after that, in January, all this blows up. Had they waited to finish that documentary, they wouldn't have been able to finish the documentary, because they'd had to go into this next one just happened.
That's true.
So.
Well, guess what time it is, Mark?
Oh, what time is it, Sandy?
It is time for you to bring us the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament portion.
Well, all I'm going to do today, this is it. All I'm going to do is give you a preview of what I'm teaching Wednesday morning on my show, Compass of Cram. And what I'm teaching is called the Passover in the Gospels. And countless numbers of people have done a teaching on this. Now, I wrote my own Haggadah years ago. I couldn't even tell you, but way back in the day, I wrote a Haggadah, and it literally was a combination of Yeshua's Last Supper, his last Passover, and the Seder, the different parts of the Seder. And I wrote it because I needed this, because I couldn't find a Haggadah that I liked and to use when I taught a Passover Seder. And so I did the research and wrote this out, and then I wrote it, got it ready for Passover, and then I never went back to it. And so this past year, I've started going to a local church here that is really good size, and the pastor and I have become good friends. And we had talked about me teaching a Passover, either a Passover or this teaching for for their church this year. But of course, all this is quarantine now, and can't do it. But so I'm going to do it on my show Wednesday. But I give you some points that a lot of people I don't think really realize is that you can find the Passover, Pesach, in all four Gospels, but Matthew, Mark, and Luke only cover a portion of one chapter. They literally go in and make a couple of different quick points and then go right on with him going, to pray and the whole thing. The book of John, on the other hand, you'll find the Passover between chapter 13 2 and 17:26. Basically, the whole 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the chapters deal with the Passover. And it's interesting because if you look at it, that's almost a quarter of the entire book of John is covered at Passover. And what's even more interesting when you read it out, it's like I was blown away when I first read it, thinking, oh my gosh, so many of these different things that he says in there are things that we say or teach on a regular basis, especially in Christianity. You have taught on these things, like a slave is not greater than his master. Say, if Yeshua says, if you receive someone in my name, you receive me. You have, I'm giving you a new commandment, love one another. That's all during the Passover. Let's see, everyone will know that you are my disciples when you love one another. Kepha saying that I'll die for you, and Yeshua telling him that he'll deny him 3 times. That was at Passover. In my Father's house, there are many places. I go to prepare a place. That's all during Passover. Yeshua said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one goes to the Father except by me. That's at the Passover. Whoever trusts in me, also the works that I do, and greater works, because I go to the Father. Whatever you ask in my name, I will do, all at Passover. Let's see, may the Father be glorified in the Son. If you ask for something in my name, I will do it. If you love me, keep my commandments, all in the Passover. He's sending another comforting counselor. Let's see, I am the real vine, the Father is the gardener. Also, I am the vine, you are the branches, all at Passover. There is no greater love than a man lay down his life for his friends. At Passover, if the world hates you, they hated me first. All these things that we just quote because we quote them without even looking them up in Scripture, because we've not only been taught these things many, many times in our lives, we say them ourselves based on different things we're either teaching or we're talking to somebody about, those type of things. We say them, but we don't realize they were actually said at Passover. They were said at Yeshua's Last Supper, his last Passover. He's teaching his disciples, his Talmudim, these things. And so as the years went on, and I taught several different Pesachs, Passovers, to different people, large groups, small groups, that type of thing, it's interesting that I kept thinking as I was teaching out of my Haggadah that, this scripture, this verse that Yeshua said, you know what? It goes along with this common Passover Seder and the different things. We in the Seder, you have the 4 cups, you have the cup of sanctification, the cup of judgment, the cup of redemption, the cup of praise, and these different verses can go along with those things. You have the leaven, you have the washing of hands. I mean, come on, he washed their feet. You have the matzah, the breaking of matzah, the afikomen. It's all a part of these different verses. You have the bitter herbs, the the Psalm of Praise. Now, one of the things that I thought was real interesting is the entire 17th chapter. The whole chapter is Yeshua praying. The whole, and it's like, as soon as he's done, then they all leave and they go to pray, and Elijah shows up and all that. Interesting. Elijah shows up right after they do the Passover. And there you go, right towards the end of a Passover, we set a place for Elijah, and then the kids go out and yell and scream and for Elijah to come. But right after they're done with the Passover, they go to pray, and who shows up? Elijah. I mean, come on. Why? Here's my thought here is real big in the Christian world is the WWJD. What would Jesus do? And of course, it goes over to the Messianic lifestyle of WWYD. What would Yeshua do? Well, let me tell you what Jesus not only would do, but did. He did Passover. He did Passover every year of his life. He did Passover. Jesus was a Jew. He did Passover. He did the Moedim. He did all the traditions of whatever Jewish people did and do. What would Jesus do? I don't know about the Jesus part of it, but I know that the Yeshua Hebrew part of it, and it's interesting. I found at the very beginning. Let me just read you my notes here. Is that though the Passover is obviously a Torah tradition, it's not commanded anywhere to do it. It is of great value to Yeshua, as he made sure to share the experience with his Talmudim. In Luke 22:14-16, it says, when the time came, Yeshua and the emissaries reclined at the table, and he said to them, I have really wanted so much to celebrate this Seder with you before I die. For I tell you, it is certain that I will not celebrate it again until it's given its full meaning in the kingdom of God. Come on. What did Jesus do? What would he do if he was here right now, this Wednesday night? If Jesus was here, he'd do Passover. So why, as anybody that acknowledges this Jewish Messiah, this Christian Messiah, why wouldn't you do a Passover? Why wouldn't you recognize what he says right here? He says, I have really wanted, so this is in quotations. Jesus said, I have really wanted so much to celebrate this Seder with you. So I see, and all the Talmudim would have thought it very odd not to have had a Seder, seeing as though they knew no other way. It was their halakha. It was their way of life. It was Jesus's way of life. It was his halakha. That's what they did. And so it's interesting to me that when you say it to somebody that's within the faith, our Messianic brethren. I forget this. I really need to say it is not our Messianic brethren, but our New Testament brethren. That's what Monty Judy used to call our Christian brothers, and I love it. It's our New Testament brethren. Why don't you see this? Why don't you read that scripture and realize that it's Passover? It involves you because you acknowledge him as your Messiah. So why don't you pick that up and do that? So what I'm going to do on Wednesday is all of this. I'm going to go through each one of these scriptures, and I'm going to show you how they work with the Passover Seder and the different items as you go down. And when Yeshua came to like the cup of sanctification, which one of these scriptures in John would he have been teaching during that? So there you go.
That's good. Everybody, you need to tune in. You need to tune in on Wednesday and watch the show Compass of Cram at this same time slot, so you can't miss it. I think, that people are so disconnected to Passover and the rest of the feast because they're not taught. So when they read the words, it's almost just a word, and they pass over it and they don't connect it together. And it's a lie of Hasatan that has really permeated culture, because if you can separate you from the feast, from the Moedim, then it separates you so much from Scripture and the symbolism of Yeshua. And that's the whole point, is to minimize. Yeshua just a man? Was he doing more? Hasatan's goal is to disconnect you from the word, Yeshua, and the word, his words. And that's what's happened. And that's why when people see Passover, because they don't understand the feast, they think they're Jewish feasts, and they don't read their Tanakh, they don't read the Old Testament, so they don't have a connection. So it jumps out at them, and it's just a word that's in there. And so everything else is disconnected from it. So
very true. Very, very true. Well,
anyway, thank you for that. That's good.
Sure.
I'm excited. I'm excited for your show.
Yep. Well, we'll archive it too, so if somebody can't make it, it'll be good. We had a really good conference yesterday. The Keeping Focus in Distracting Times was a very, very good conference, and it's all archived on the website. You can go to the website and go to the Keeping Focus page, and all the 3 different teachings are up, ready to go. If you want to watch, you couldn't make it yesterday. We had a really good turnout yesterday. I was real happy with how it turned out. From the beginning to the end, we were pretty packed with quite a few people that came in. And we plan on doing this once a month. I think it's very applicable for this time, is keeping focus in distracting times. I think our whole theme of the show today has been that the times they are a changing, and it really is a different story today. But I mean, even like with what Yeshua said and how it was interpreted, my God, why have you forsaken me? That it just plays right into today. Same thing today.
Exactly. Well, Mark, it's been fun.
It has, hasn't
No,
it?
I mean, it goes back to every time we've done a show together. It's just easy. It's comfortable.
Oh, always. It's very good. So what are you doing Wednesday? Because I need to get that. We do have a Passover video series page, so you can go see all that's already been taught on Passover. Last year and this year is already a lot of things have been taught from different shows. Got a new one last night, and we have shows coming up on Wednesday that are being broadcast on Lamb. And Rabbi Darryl Weinberg is broadcasting his Wednesday night on Facebook. And what are you doing Wednesday night, I think?
Wednesday night, if you want to join Life of Worship for our Seder, you need to drop us a line at LOW at lifeofworshipamarillo.org, and I will send you a Haggadah. We are going to broadcast on Zoom. Normally we do it YouTube Live, but because of the situation, we can't gather like normal. And I got phone call after phone call. Please do this. So that's what we're going to do. I have the web address right there tickering by, so you can look at that. You can drop me a line and say you want to join us, and you can come in on download your application for Zoom, and I will send you a meeting number and a password to join us, as well as your Haggadah, and do it. We're going to do it that way. And in fact, we have, anyway, I'm not going to get into that on air, but we have people going to be with us. So we're going to do it together, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll start at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And we all know that Seders last a while. So just be prepared to have a lot of fun. And don't think you're just going to sit back and watch. Everybody's going to participate. That's all I can say.
Amen.
We're going to make it super fun.
Amen.
So,
amen. Sounds
anyway,
good.
that is what I have for you today. And that's what we're doing as Life of Worship. And I guess that you could go back and look at our Seder from last year too, if you wanted to. We broadcast that right on Lamb Radio, on Lamb Network. So if you wanted to, you could go back and watch that. And did we do it on yours or on mine?
I think you did it on yours.
Okay.
All we have is Darryl's. Rabbi Darryl taught his, and it was broadcast through Lamb last year.
Okay. Well, I will
get me yours, and I'll put it up on the website.
I will mark our Seder and get it put up there. So you guys, if you desire to walk through that last year's, you can do that too. So
yeah, that was a good, you know what? I do have that. I do, because I was just looking at it the other day. I was looking at John's bald head the other day, and that was at Passover. So yeah, that I'm real sure I have it. Let me look, and I'll email you.
Just let me know. All right. Well, that's our show for today, folks. That's Let Us Reason Together, and I'm Sandi, not John. Just to let you know.
and I'm Mark Craig.
Anyway, we are so glad that you joined us. Please like the show and help spread the word. Share it on Facebook. Do whatever you can, and stay tuned to this network. I actually had somebody just as encouraging in our services on Shabbat. They let everybody know. They said, well, since we're not working in things, we listen to Messianic Lamb Radio all day. Seriously. That's what they said they do.
Thousands of hours of stuff.
It's there, folks. If you want something, it's there for you. You don't want to miss it. Check it out.
Thank you.
Anyway, till next time, guys, maybe you'll see the two combo of us next week. I don't know. We'll find out soon. But until then, shalom.
Gotta go. Susan's here.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.